So we're in conversation with Aya Caspi, who's going to be offering a 2-hour session on the spirituality of NVC for Living Bridges. I am so grateful for you being here and for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit more in depth about this. And I see it's really bright and sunny where you are, which is delightful to look at.
Yes, I'm in California, and we have a little bit of a spring weather here this January. Yes, and thank you for inviting me to this conversation, Manasi. I feel honored to be here.
We're super thrilled about it. I think it's a wonderful way to start the year. We've just finished. We'll just be finishing the No Fault Zone game with Stella Alexandrian, and I love the idea that we can deepen a little bit more into more inner level work before we sort of during this year's open into interpersonal relationships and systemic change. That's the plan. So it's a wonderful way to kickstart that, I think, and we're all very excited about it.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. I'm wondering if would you like, shall we begin with maybe talking a little bit about your NVC journey and you and what you do,
yes,
and how you got to where you are now?
Well, as you can hear from my accent, I was born and raised in Israel, and it was quite intense growing up there. There's a lot of violence, a lot of separation, starting from my own family, where my parents got divorced when I was pretty young, which was a big crisis in my life. And continuing with, the war and the conflict with the Palestinian and a lot of death and fear. And I couldn't quite make sense of it all. It was just one big, pain that was living in me. I was very aware that I should be afraid of Palestinians, that they were the enemy. And that they, I was told they wanted to kill us and throw us to the sea. And at the same time, I knew that we shared the same ancestral father. They were actually my family, our cousins, the sons of Ishmael. And my mother's family was from Iraq. So they spoke Arabic, and Arabic culture was part of, our family culture. And at the same time, it was the language that I was kind of feeling afraid of if I would hear it in the street. So there was that conflict and unrest inside of me. And then, of course, there was the separation from myself because I felt a lot of shame. I was the only child in the class whose parents were divorced back in the 70s in Israel. And I truly believe there was something wrong with me. So I was having all that, and at the same time there was this connection to the Jewish culture around me, which I was taught the essence of was love your neighbor as thyself. So that added even more confusion, because how does this sit with what I'm seeing around me? Because I couldn't see any example of embodying this principle or the living of it. And I was not able to do it in myself. The first thing I noticed when trying to implement this is that I can't love neither myself or others the same way that I'm supposed to love myself. So I, from very early age, started to search for wisdom on how to love and asking those questions that Marshall was asking himself, who we are and what we meant to be. And that took me on a journey in many stops. I studied philosophy of religion in Tel Aviv University, sociology, anthropology. I joined all kind of groups, studied Buddhism, you name it. And then I met a man in Israel called Naftali Shimrat, who was a very innovative person. Like the ideas that he had were very new to me. And he was a student of Carl Rogers. He's now a 92 or something, still lives in Israel and works. And he was the first teacher of empathy. First person who not just told me about empathy, but also showed me how to do it. And I witnessed, hundreds of sessions where he would sit with these CEOs and chairmen of boards, most successful companies in Israel, and tell them, I'm now going to become you, and I'm going to tell you what I heard you saying. And then he would embody this amazing understanding and love of the other person. I always thought he had a gift from the gods. And I wasn't able to integrate it myself. I was able to see how it looks like, but I couldn't figure out how to do it myself until I met NVC in the end of 2007 when I moved to California. And 2 weeks later, I was introduced to NVC, and that was like, Eureka, I found it. This is how you do it. And then I was like, something clicked. And I knew I was going to dedicate my life to this work and sharing it in the world. And that's what I've been doing for the past 13 years.
Wow. It also sounds like empathy, in a way, was the answer to your question about how to love, or how to live in love or with love with your fellow man. In a way?
Yes, because, the word love is very central in that love your neighbor as thyself. And it's very central, as Marshall was pointing, in any spiritual traditions and teachings. All of them have the word love central to them. And then there was the question, okay, how do you do love? So, many teachings tell you what not to do or what you should be. Like, don't express negative emotions, or be kind, be compassionate, but the how to is missing. And so empathy is the practice of love, yes. And as Marshall said, it's a certain way that we give ourselves, that we give our presence. And it's a free gift also. That's kind of pointing to that there is a, maybe, saying love or saying life or saying God or saying nonviolence, for me, it's kind of the same. Because it points to a life principle or a law of life that is about gifting.
Giving, really just gifting. And in that giving, I guess also a quality of receiving and
giving that is free. Meaning when you look around, that quote from Hafiz, after all these years, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Look what happens with a love like this. It lights up the whole sky. So I think that's what it means to love, is to become a sun.